I get asked all the time, Mac, why do you spend so much time on Obama and the things he didn't do for the black community? And why do you hold such disdain for the man? Well, this is why. Every single time this man comes out, he loves to talk about how the black community is failing the Democratic Party, but never speaks about how the Democratic Party is sticking their middle finger in the black community's faces.
you know, the thing I worry most about during these midterms, and this happened throughout my presidency and pretty much every Democratic presidency, is that our Democratic voters get real hyped up around presidential races. And we lose interest a lot of times during midterms. And then we're puzzled as to, well, why isn't more stuff happening, And then we use the fact that more stuff isn't happening as an excuse to not vote again in the midterms. The same is true when it comes to issues like racial justice. Is your vote going to eliminate racism or problems between police and communities of color across the country? Probably not. But you know what? It could mean a different DA someplace. It could mean the difference in terms of making an investment in diversion programs that give kids a chance and don't simply lock them up for 20 years. And that's got to be worth 15 minutes of your time. And then you can continue to work for the broader vision that you're looking for. But I do get frustrated with an attitude that I'm too cool to vote, that you see floating around the internet a lot among folks who purport to be progressive, and I can't wrap my head around that argument because it's not as if these folks who are, on social media making this argument are out leading the revolution, right? They're not. They're on social media.
They're not knocking on doors.
They're not knocking on doors. Well, but they are not offering a plausible alternative course of action.
Oh, there is so much to break down in this little bitty clip, but we're going to take our time and we're going to do it right, piece by piece. Let's start off here.
The thing I worry most about during these midterms, and this happened throughout my presidency and pretty much every Democratic presidency, is that our Democratic voters get real hyped up around presidential races. And we lose interest a lot of times during midterms. And then we're puzzled as to, well, why isn't more stuff happening, And then we use the fact that more stuff isn't happening as an excuse to not vote again in the midterms.
What Obama just did right there was blatantly lie to everyone listening. Because here's the thing. When Obama says that people just get uninterested in the midterms, why? Because during the midterms, people come and they try to promise us things. And when we say, you guys haven't been doing anything for us, we're not going to do anything unless you come out for us. What happens? What happens is the Democratic Party will go to every other community and pander and placate to their needs, even though those other communities will go and switch from Democrat to Republican in a heartbeat, especially when we know that he's telling a blatant lie. Black people have been voting majority Democrat for the past 56 years. And what have we gotten out of it? Nothing. They won't even address the situation in our community They won't address a situation in our community directly unless what? Unless they add in everybody else. They will address anybody else's situations directly. But when it comes to the black community and our issues and the things that we say, hey, if you want our vote, this is what we need. This is Obama's response to us. This ain't the first time.
Everybody out there is tough. You're right. It's especially tough for the African American community. The steps we took in the first 2.5 years made a difference. It made sure that a lot of folks were still on the job that otherwise wouldn't be. It made sure that states were able to stabilize their budgets so they weren't laying off as many teachers or firefighters or civil servants that are providing services every day. But what we realized over the last couple of months is that because of a whole range of issues, including what's happened overseas in Europe, that the economy needs another boost. And we've got to focus more on putting people back to work now.
And that's what this jobs bill is.
So the jobs bill overall is designed to make sure that we're rebuilding schools and bridges and putting construction workers back to work. It makes sure that we're putting teachers back in the classroom. It makes certain that we are providing incentives to hire veterans who have been out of work, but also the long-term unemployed who are out of work. And it makes sure that we're providing tax breaks and tax credits to just about every family and every middle-class person and every small business around the country. Now, with respect to the African-American community, they benefit from all of that. But in addition, we are making sure that summer jobs for youth are included in the package, making sure that we reform our unemployment insurance so that in addition to 1.4 million African Americans getting unemployment insurance, we're also providing them a pathway so that they start getting some on-the-jobs training. All those things are going to have a huge impact in the African American community. That's why we've got to get this bill passed now.
Why not target the African American community? Why not say then, this is for you? This is for African Americans. If there was a banking crisis, then you target money for the banks. If there was a national disaster, you target your money for the national for disaster relief.
That's not how America works. America works when all of us are pulling together, and everybody is focused on making sure that every single person has opportunity. And so when we put forward a program like, for example, the health care bill, our focus is people who don't have health care. Now, it turns out that the majority of folks who don't have health care are also working families and are disproportionately African American and Latino. But that doesn't mean that it's only for them. There are a whole bunch of folks all across the country who need help, and we are going to help every single person who needs help.
You see, when they go to everyone else, they have no problem cutting that check, dropping off that bag, doing whatever is specifically necessary for that specific community. But when they come to us, well, all sinking ships get lifted by raising tides. It's that if we help everyone, the black community will get help too. And that's why they lose. They go and pander and placate to these other communities because they don't want these other communities mad at them. You got to calm these other communities. You got to give them something. But the black community, they have no problem putting their finger up in your face, telling you, you know what? We don't even care.
You know, the same is true when it comes to issues like racial justice. Is your vote going to eliminate racism or problems between police and communities of color across the country? Probably not. But you know what? It could mean a different DA someplace. It could mean the difference in terms of making an investment in diversion programs that give kids a chance and don't simply lock them up for 20 years. And that's got to be worth 15 minutes of your time. And then you can continue to work for the broader vision that you're looking for. But I do get frustrated with an attitude that I'm too cool to vote. That you see floating around the internet a lot among folks who purport to be progressive.
This man speaks about the black community as if we're idiots. Us standing on our square and saying, if y'all not giving us anything for our vote like y'all give everyone else, then we're not giving you our vote. Ain't us being too cool to vote. And he purposely said that. It wasn't something that he had to struggle for. There was a lot of things that he had to struggle for in this interview here, but that wasn't one of them. Ask yourself, when was the last time you heard Obama stuttering over almost every word that he said? Usually he's all suave and he got his words together and stuff, right? But he sounds like a bumbling idiot right here. The man goes off and tells everyone who's listening that your vote probably won't fix race relations in this country. Did you catch that? Most of these people who are getting hate crime bills like the Asians and the reform bill like the indigenous Americans, like all of these people that are getting these bills, they ain't even the Democratic voting base. But yet, you could turn around and find the Democrats literally giving the sun, moon, and stars to these other groups. What is the problem here? The problem is that they don't respect our vote and they treat the black community as children when it comes to politics. Tell us what needs to be done rather than listening to us tell them what needs to be done. And then they want to turn around and make it our fault for standing on our square. Well, it was you guys who didn't believe that fat meat's greasy. You had to learn the hard way. And you're getting spanked every second that we get a chance to spank you. And this is what got him scared. Listen to him. You can hear the terror in his voice. He brings up social media, nonetheless. Why did he bring up social media? It's because black folk are able, at this time in our lives, to connect with each other more than any other time in the history of these United States. Our voices aren't being, it's not being elevated by anybody but us. And so we're sitting here telling anyone that would listen that this is about equity. This is about our future and the future of our children. Obama would like you to fight a whole nother 56 years and be nowhere in that 56 years when we don't have time for that. We don't have any time for that. We've already been through 56 years of nothing. And he want to turn around and say, and then you can continue to fight for your vision. No, we've been fighting for Dr. King's vision for how long? We've been fighting for Malcolm X's vision for how long? We've been fighting left and right. So tell me, what will be the straw that breaks the camel's back? And when the straw breaks that camel's back, is the camel blamed due to the amount of weight that they put on that camel? No. But this is what Obama would love you to believe, that people on the internet are just literally spewing a bunch of crap, nonsense, because they're too cool to vote, and they want you to be too cool to vote too. Instead of saying, you know what, the Democratic Party has a bad habit of taking advantage of our black constituents. And we need to really listen and learn what we need to do better by shutting our mouth and listening to our constituents. And then we need to implement what our constituents are telling us in the areas where they need the most help. Do you hear any of the Democrats saying anything like that? No. All they do is blame you for their loss, even though no one else in any other community vote for them at the rate that we vote for them. And when I say we ain't got time to waste time, we don't have time to waste time. The median wealth of Black Americans will fall to zero. To zero by 2053. So why are we sitting here playing around with these cats? Why are we playing around with them? Now, there's times where it's fun to play with a cat. But these cats, they ain't nothing to be played with. They need to be put out their misery. Because these people take us as a joke. They take our community as a joke. They take our vote as a joke. They take everything about us as a joke. And then we got people who are willing to get up on national television and promote the same ignorance that Obama is.
And I can't wrap my head around that argument because it's not as if these folks who are, on social media making this argument are out leading the revolution, right? They're not. They're on social media.
They're not knocking on doors.
They're not knocking on doors. Well, but they are not offering a plausible alternative course of action.
Yet he didn't have no problem wrapping his head around it when he went over to the Latin community and asked them for their vote, and they were then he was forced to give them DACA. That wasn't just out the kindness of his heart. That wasn't something that he just thought of on a whim. But he can't wrap his head around it when it comes to the Black community and the things that we need. This is totally ridiculous. And then he want to turn around and say, we're not out here leading no revolutions. Oh, this is the revolution, and it won't be televised. Because all while you guys are doing everything for everyone else, we are coming together. And we are realizing, hey, if they're not doing nothing for us, but they're going to do for everyone else, then they're not getting our vote, period, point and blank. So when you lose, you're going to come to us hat in hand, trying to figure out how you can get our vote back. And it's going to be the same thing every time. And as long as you guys keep shucking and jiving around the fucking facts, yes, I said fucking, as long as you keep shucking and jiving around those facts, you're going to keep on losing elections, period, point and blank. Period, point and blank. Then they want to go on and talk about we're not offering any plausible alternatives. So what is the plausible alternative to what we're saying? What is a plausible alternative to our freedom and our rights? Just go and vote for nothing? Just go and give it away as a gift? That's not plausible either. But we know that every time you guys have been starved by a certain communities, the Democratic Party breaks their neck to give and shiv out as much money and as much resources as possible. But by the time the first so-called Black president left the White House, the Black community was even worse off. Trillions of dollars transferred to the white communities and future generations. That was Obama's doing. Elections are the time when everyone decides where are the resources going to go. So if we're not going to get our piece of the pie, you ain't going to get no deluxe apartment in the sky. Let me let you know this. Because all Obama has ever done is use the Black community to further his political career. He's gotten rich and wealthy off of us. You better recognize.
In the era of the first black president, the bottom fell out for black America. In many ways, although they had a black president, they were still politically marginalized, they were economically exploited, they were socially manipulated. So how do you juxtapose those two realities years from now? I'm glad I'm not a historian trying to figure that out 20, 40, 50 years down the road. But I tell you this, I think the historians are going to root for Obama ultimately because it's a good American story. You got to say America did the right thing. They elected the brother. You know, so the story, the narrative kind of takes its own shape. But when they get to this part about how you juxtapose those two realities, his success and the bottoming out for black America, that's going to be a much harder story to tell.
And here's what's amazing statistically. The most optimistic people in America
Absolutely.
are African Americans.
That's right.
And because they're excited, they're still excited about this president. They still defend him, no matter what has happened to them economically.
That attitude changes dramatically as soon as a Republican is elected? Do you think they become less optimistic as soon as a Republican's elected?
So much of America was proud back in 2008 when Barack Obama got elected. It wasn't just black America, it was all of America. Even if you didn't vote for him, millions of Americans were glad to see that this country could make that step. What's fascinating to me that the community is suffering economically, and it is widespread suffering, and yet they still believe that tomorrow is going to be better than today.